Wonderful. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Leveraging Data to Support Disaster Preparedness and Recovery. I'm Brett Schwartz. I'm Associate Director at the NADO Research Foundation and joined by my colleague, Dion Thompson-Davily, to support today behind the scenes with logistics. So really appreciate all of you kind of taking time to join us for this session. I know many on the call today are working on and living disaster recovery in real time, and we're certainly sending our best wishes and really hope today's session can provide some insight and some resources to support you, your organization, and your region going forward. So really excited to introduce our speaker, Kalandra Cruikshank, today from StateBook in just a moment. But before that, just want to share a few opening remarks to put our session in context. So today's webinar is offered through the Economic Development District Community of Practice, our EDD CoP. This is a 5-year program funded through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Economic Development Administration. And through the CoP, we're offering a mix of training and networking opportunities to support staff on EDDs on a wide-ranging work of all you do in service to your region. So I hope you've been able to take advantage of a lot of these resources we've been providing over the past 2.5 years, and we're looking forward to continuing those in the future. Quick disclaimer, of course, at the bottom here, the ideas offered today during our session are those of our speakers and don't necessarily reflect the views of EDA or the Department of Commerce. But yeah, just wanted to give you a kind of a sample of some of the kind of resources we've been developing through the community of practice, lots of webinars, case studies, issue briefs, planning guides, and much more. You can see on a wide range of topics here related to workforce development, the SEDS, aging and economic development, hazard mitigation, and much more. So if you haven't already, and hope you have though, but head on over after the webinar, of course, to our EDD CoP website to see more of what we have to support your work going forward. Also, just want to encourage you to head over to SED Central as well. Let's see if we could get a little bit of background noise there. Head over to sedcentral.com, which is our one-stop shop for all things SEDS, which includes, let me try. There we go. Excellent. So SED Central is our kind of one-stop shop for all things related to SEDS. And we've got a special section on resilience, which includes webinars, short videos, case studies, and reports on a variety of resilience-related topics, including a Resilience 101 section, economic recovery, economic diversification and transition, and much more. So check out SED Central for some support with resilience, but overall kind of on your SEDS planning work as well. And also wanted to make sure you knew about some of the resources and data tools that are available from the Argonne National Laboratory, which is the EDA-funded National Economic Resilience Data Explorer, NERDI tool, as well as the Economic Development Capacity Index, the EDCI tool. So the NERDI consolidates a wide range of publicly available data about local and regional economic and development conditions. There's searchable information that's displayed at the economic development district level, which is really awesome, as well as the county level in a variety of dashboards. And then EDCI has publicly available data to assess those critical elements that contribute to your country's overall economic development capacity. So head over to Argonne's site to really dive into those tools. We've also hosted some webinars with folks at Argonne. You can see those links there on the side, and you'll be getting the slides here afterwards as well to really see how these tools can support you in addition to the tools that we'll be seeing today from Kalandra and StateBook. Speaking of webinars and other online resources, just want to flag 2 opportunities that we have coming your way next week. I'm really looking forward to these. These are 2 sessions with David Dodd with the International Sustainable Resilience Center. He's going to be doing a webinar on Tuesday on disaster preparedness and economic resilience, some considerations you should be thinking about as staff at economic development districts. So that should be a great session in kind of webinar format. And then on Thursday, we're going to have more of an informal kind of office hours opportunity for you to kind of ask some questions of David, share some stories. I'm sure he'll share some as well. He's been working in this field for over 20 years, has a lot to offer about kind of things you should be thinking about, considerations around preparedness, recovery, and much more. So the links should be in the chat. I think Dion's going to drop those in to register for next week as well. So I hope to see many of you there. Again, stay up to date with all the work that we're doing at NADO, but particularly on the Economic Development District Community of Practice. Subscribe for NADO News. This is our free Thursday newsletter that goes out and has a wide range of resources and opportunities and announcements and events and all that good stuff, all really related to regional economic development in the world of economic development districts. So if you're not subscribed already, get on there and you'll be up to date on kind of the latest we all have to offer. So that's really it from me. Again, please stay in touch as we continue this really exciting collaborative work with all of you through the Economic Development District Community of Practice. Reach out if you have any questions, looking for resources, looking to connect with others. In addition to those kind of written resources we've talked about, we've got a whole host of networking opportunities and peer exchange offerings as well. So we're really, building out this network of, 400 plus economic development districts across the country. And all of you are really a crucial part of that. So with that, let's get to the main event. While you're all here today, I'm really happy to have Kalanja join us. We've known each other for many years, and Kalanja and I were sharing maybe a month or so ago about some of the recent work that she's been doing in this space, as well as some other new data resources and free resources from StateBook. And I was like, here's a great opportunity to get in front of our audience of districts to really kind of share what you've been working on. So I'll go through the quick bio real fast. Kalanja is the founder and CEO of StateBook International, the first nationwide online marketplace of economic development and corporate site selection, headquartered in New York, which is freezing right now from what I heard, or has been. Kalanja specializes in designing and implementing creative campaigns using sustainable and socially responsible programming and strategic alliances between for-profit and nonprofit organizations and government agencies. Kalanja is a member of the International Economic Development Council, EDDC, the University Economic Development Association, and the Council of Development Finance Agencies. She's also a great friend of NADO and many of our NADO members, and has worked together for many years on SEDS and other regional planning and some other opportunities, which I know we'll hear about today as well. So encourage all of you to follow along here, ask questions in the Q&A, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we possibly can. But with that, let's turn things over to Kalanja, who'll give us both kind of a combo demo and then also kind of presentation as well to share her current resources. So Kalanja, I'll let you take it from here. Let me stop sharing.
Thank you.
Great, thanks again.
Oops, let's see if it'll let me now. There we go. Okay, well, thank you, Brett. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to be here with all of your members, and the opportunity, every opportunity to collaborate with NADO. And I'm also excited about the upcoming webinars that you're hosting with ISRC and David Dodd, because StateBook is a partner with them and also with the Institute for Sustainable Development. So there's a lot of really, really good work that's being done in those spaces. And I'll talk a little bit about some of that today and some of the work that we've done with them in the past and are currently doing. So today's webinar, Leveraging Data to Support Disaster Preparedness and Recovery. And I'm going to run through just a very quick high-level intro to StateBook for anybody who doesn't know what StateBook is. We are a location intelligence data provider. As Brett mentioned, we aggregate a lot of different data from all different federal sources as our foundation. So much so that the federal government, the Department of Commerce, does subscribe to StateBook's data, which is great. And we also provide all kinds of different data solutions for economic development. We license our data for your websites. We also we created a digital SEDS platform, and like Brett, and an economic resilience scorecard with ISRC. So like Brett said, I'll show you some of that stuff in a bit. We deliver actionable intelligence by taking all of that federal data and visualizing it. We have all different data sets: industry, workforce, employment, mobility, impact, infrastructure, health, environment, more than 50 billion different data points, all aggregated into one platform. And also available on mobile phones and through our APIs. And our data is very configurable. So it can be spun up into different types of dashboards, and it's all very interactive and unlocks intelligence for power reporting and unleashing strategic insights. Very interactive, and you'll see that in a minute. Also, actually, I don't know how to go back. There we go. One interesting thing about StateBook is that our data is fully configurable. So it can be visualized in all different kinds of custom visualizations like drive times and walk times and radiuses. And we use data science to join data from public and private sources for optimal visualized insights for strategic decision-making. So with that introduction, I just want to talk a little bit about the types of work that we're doing in disaster preparedness and recovery. Essentially, what we've learned, and especially from working with David Dodd and Stephen Jordan at the Institute for Sustainable Development as well, is that from day one, from experiencing a disaster, especially a natural disaster, because there are all different kinds, right? Man-made disasters, pandemics, cyber risk, all different kinds of things in addition to natural disasters. But from day one of recovery, from that point, you're on the path of resilience. You really need to think about I mean, ideally, right, you start thinking about it before a disaster hits. But should a disaster hit, it's literally from day one that you're on the road to both recovery and resilience, building back better in a variety of different ways. Economic resilience refers to the ability of an economy to quickly recover from a shock or disruption like a natural disaster or economic crisis. Why do we care? Natural and man-made disasters cause direct damage to infrastructure and property, disrupt economic activity, displace populations, and lead to substantial losses in income and productivity. Displaced populations, infrastructure, bridges, roads, right, dams, and built environment infrastructure, all of that can lead to substantial economic activity being lost and delayed for a long time. And each of those incidents compounds the others, I would say, for those total losses in income and productivity. And we know that natural disasters in particular are increasing in frequency and severity. Places like Asheville, North Carolina, and that surrounding area in Western North Carolina, nobody expected that a lot of those properties were not even in a 500-year floodplain, much less a 100-year floodplain. So many of those people didn't have insurance. Same thing in Los Angeles. A lot of the homes were not in the fire risk zones because it wasn't on the radar. And the places that had a lot of restrictions, right, and requirements for clearing brush and making sure that there was nothing growing too closely that could catch fire to homes, but the places outside of that fire zone did not. And so really doing the work to catch up on a lot of the different potential risk factors for natural disaster risk is very important to do this ahead of time. And we know, right, a lot of the FEMA flood maps are outdated and so forth. And so we have unquestionably the technology to catch up and really understand and identify where risk is today and then prepare for that. And part of that preparation is really in establishing the communication structures between different parts of the community, from the business community to utilities to first responders, all the way up to the federal government and FEMA, right? Make sure you have those communication structures in place. And then to use technology and data to really both create a baseline for resilience for where you are today, so that should a disaster hit, you have the tools and capability to be able to both report what was impacted and then as quickly as possible start to apply for the grants and identify where impacts were. And then I really dislike the recovery process where it's sort of, you want to get back to baseline, because I think in many, many cases we can build back better. And in many cases, and I'm sure David Dodd will discuss a lot of this with you in greater detail next week, but in a lot of cases, we can also prepare ahead of time and harden assets if we know and are able to use data and technology to harden against those risks in advance once we have identified them. So what is a data-driven approach to economic resilience? Let me see if I can just, I think I have to stop share for 1 second just to switch to the demo, but I want to start with, let me share again here. So I want to start with looking at the EDA requirements. These are the SEDS requirements, right? And one of those is economic resilience. They've recently removed the climate resilience requirement, but economic resilience is still in place. And their requirements are basically you know, focusing on a lot of the things that I just discussed, right? So being able to withstand and bounce back from any type of shock, disruption, or stress that it may experience. And so, you know, this ability to establish economic resilience and anticipate risk, right? And evaluate how that risk can impact key economic assets and build a responsive capacity. That is very important for understanding what data and technology you have available to you in order to be able to do that. So we're going to cover a few of those things today. I will start with looking at the StateBook platform. And one of the things that you will note is that StateBook is actually offering free data to NADO members. So Brett mentioned that a moment ago. So if you look at what is on the screen here right now, right here from topics and views down to powered by StateBook and census, which is the source of the data that's on the screen. This report, which includes, this is our overview report. And in the overview report, we have total population, median age, total households, household median income, per capita income, housing units, median housing unit value, median monthly costs for owners of real estate, median monthly costs for owners with and without a mortgage, median contract rent, and then education analytics, like high school graduates are higher, bachelor's degrees are higher, and mean travel time to work. So this data report is available for free. You can just log into the statebook.com website and look at that data for any single community that you want to. We just happen to be on Washington, D.C. here, NATO headquarters, if you will. And we are looking at data at the block group level in this case, but this data actually, we can look at the map in any way that we would like, including we can zoom all the way in to, you know, do a fun 3D flyover of the city, right? So you can really kind of see what's happening on the ground. You can switch to satellite view. You can zoom in as closely as you want to any one particular building and grab screenshots and show access, zoom out to show access to, highways or rail or other infrastructure. And you can also, all of this is available for free. This is a new offering from StateBook. We're kind of opening up parts of our data to democratize them. And you can also go into this configure screen, and that allows you to look at different geography levels. So the US, state, metro area, county, city, congressional district, school district, for any area in the country. And also look at the different data points, different metrics that StateBook calculates, and different years of data. And in adding those different years of data, selecting all of those, I can now go to the front end and I can look at how the data has changed year over year. And as you look at this and see in this case how population is changing year over year, if you look closely, you'll see that some of the shape files are also changing. Like if you look at this area right here, you see these shape files change as population grows and the area gets redistricted at the block group level in this case. We can switch to any other data points that we want to see. So if we want to see how many people have high school degrees or graduate high school or higher, we can look at that. If we want to see, what are the median housing values in the area, we can pull that data point up. So you can really see all different kinds of data, and you can also look at this data in different ways. So if you just want to see how population in a region is growing or shrinking in a chart, you can pull that up. If you want to see how this community compares to state or national data or other regions, other cities or counties or metro areas, you can use the overview benchmark graph, and you can always just see the data in a table. And all of these views you can download right from here. So that's really valuable to be able to download whatever you're seeing on the screen, if it's a table, into a CSV or a Excel sheet. If it's a chart, map, or benchmark, you can actually download it as a PNG or JPEG right from here. And if you're downloading a map, you can actually size it. You can pick your zoom level. You can keep the legend or not, name it, choose your format, and then download that right from here for free to be able to add to a report or a grant application or what have you. Oh, Brett, I see your question in the chat. Yes, to clarify, that this data is open to staff at all EDDs, not just NADO members. Anybody can come in and access this data and information for free. So that's just a quick overview of the StateBook data that is available for free for all of you. I want to also stress that in that configure screen, you also have access to the geographies tab, which allows you to drop an address into the platform and then get data for a 135 mile radius or a travel time or like drive time, walk time, or bike time. You can drop custom shape files in, custom radiuses, all kinds of things in here. And then just our system spins it up for free, and you can download it and add it to your reports and grant applications and so forth. So let's dig into data for economic resilience. This takes so many shapes and forms and is really valuable because you can really access all of this and be able to use data like from StateBook. Keep in mind, all of the data that we have in StateBook, well, not all of it, but most of what I'll be showing you is also available from the federal government. It is just not very useful in some cases. But, like this, as an example, is the FEMA National Risk Index, right? And so you can look at the overall risk of a community, and then you can get into all of the different potential hazards that are impacting this community, but that's a lot to get through. So we have created our own visualizations of this data so that you can come in and look at, for example, what is the expected annual loss for buildings? It's from hurricane and riverine flooding and tornadoes in this case. And what is the expected annual loss for people, right? Earthquakes, heat waves, winds, tornadoes. And then for, well, there's not a lot of agriculture in Washington, D.C. So understandably, we don't get much for that one. But normally, you know, in other areas that do have agriculture, you can see that very easily. And so as you look at these different risks and hazards, you can come back to the map and you can say, okay, let's look at where is the strongest risk from hurricanes, for example. And once you've identified a census tract that has high risk, you can then go into StateBook and look at a variety of different types of information that might be impactful for understanding the resilience of your area. So you could pull up what is the poverty status for that census tract, and you can look at, you know, how many of the households are single moms, for example. And there's a lot of different data in here, ratio of income to poverty and income assistance and things like that. So understanding where that poverty exists in that specific census tract that we're looking at can be really valuable. You can also look at things like, where do people not speak English? So would need translation services to be able to understand what to do in the event of a disaster and where to go. You can look at where income types are lower. You can see housing data to understand, and this is, I'll actually pull this one up because this is really important. Not only just what types of units are they in a particular area, are they single family, attached or detached, or multifamily, mobile homes, but you can also look at the year that structures were built. So in this case, you can see, looks like about more than 50% of the homes of the structures in Washington, D.C. were built before 1959, right? So those assets could probably really use some updating and hardening to be able to come up to current business building code standards, to be able to withstand high winds from hurricanes or flooding, et cetera. So understanding at a glance what is the risk to the structures can be very, very valuable when you're creating your resilience plan. Other things are, you can look at what industries are in an area, and you can look at that data down to the 6-digit NAICS code level. I like to look at this data in a chart because it's just easier to grasp. And you can look at this by number of establishments, or maybe looking at it by number of employees is important because you want to see where the density of employees might be that could be at risk. And so here you can see that professional, scientific, and technical services are some of the industries, healthcare, public administration, except public administration, and then accommodation and food, et cetera. So being able to see this is very important for being able to understand and evaluate your industries. And we create all different kinds of metrics. So you can look at this by location quotient, for example, to be able to see that, like, for example, education services and professional, scientific, and technical services and information services are very high in this region compared to other areas of the country, right? I want to just mention that I do see the question from Malin about whether it's possible to embed StateBook data into the SEDS, and yes, absolutely, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But thank you, that's a great question. You can also look at where occupations data to see where first responders are available to be able to respond to a disaster, or how many doctors are in an area, looking at the physician specialty data to be able to identify who's in the area to be able to meet the need in the case of a disaster. We did actually add this data during the pandemic because communities needed to understand how many medical professionals they had in their region to be able to intubate patients. And we included all of the hospital data as well. And actually, we have a tremendous amount of health data in StateBook. We built a comprehensive health needs assessment platform for Blue Cross Blue Shield last year. So we brought in a lot of health data. We also have the ability to show you where you may have issues with your infrastructure. Where are power plants located? Let's zoom out to the DC metro area to be able to look at this. There's a little bit more data on power plants in the larger region. So here you can see, where are my solar plants, right? Or where are petroleum plants? And you can really understand, where different types of power plants exist. And then in the power plant data, you can both see it on the map. You can look at it by public infrastructure, industrial and commercial infrastructure. So if we look at that in this area, we'll see these are the different industrial and commercial power plants in the area. So we know that there are probably heavy manufacturers, et cetera, that are relying on that particular power. We have ethanol plants, biodiesel, wind turbines, petroleum refineries. So being able to see where your energy infrastructure exists, and then be able to look at what is the capacity of each individual power plant. So looking at the total nameplate capacity, the summer capacity, what technologies are they using? This is really important for that power resilience. And we actually just added this energy data, all of this infrastructure data category: energy, alternative fuel stations, bridges, dams, and tunnels. We had airports and ports, but this data is really important, especially for resilience right now and the ability to recover and withstand natural disasters. We know that if the power is out for an extended period of time, businesses can't operate, right? People can't go into work, and people are at risk from, like we've seen recently in North Carolina, at risk from cold, or in other areas heat, because the power is out for an extended period of time. It has a very big impact. And we're in the process right now, in addition to all of this data and the rest of the data. You'll see we don't always bring in all of the data to the front side, but you can go in the back end and select to add other different types of data to bring it to the front of the screen on what you're looking at. But we added this data because a lot of the utilities that we've been working with are talking about the fact that electricity is going to start becoming dinner table conversation, because we've been retiring coal and petroleum-based power plants faster than we can spin up new ones, renewable energy ones, or nuclear is a big focus now, hydrogen. And as a result of not being able to spin them up as fast as we are retiring them in the US, we have the power plants that we're talking to, the power companies, are predicting that we're going to start seeing a lot more brownouts across the United States. So, and it'll become dinner time conversation when people's medical devices don't work or they're experiencing a brownout, right? So we are in the process, actually, working with George Mason University right now to augment even this data, which is very comprehensive for the entire US, but we're adding additional data that shows which plants have excess capacity and have been experiencing a lot of different shocks and stresses on the grid and things like that, which is part of why they're estimating the Los Angeles wildfire started, because there were a lot of shorts in the wires, to totally oversimplify it, and those caused fires that ignited across the area and lit some of those wildfires that Los Angeles has been suffering with lately. So the energy generation is a big part of really understanding what your risks are in an area and being able to prepare for that. We also bring in all of the alternative fuel stations. So you can see, for example, where compressed natural gas is, or ethanol. The electric is all of the EV charging stations. So it's helpful to be able to see that on the map and understand where those are. And I'll show you some of the back end data that we have for that in a moment. Propane, biodiesel, liquid natural gas, hydrogen, and renewable diesel. So in the map, it's very interesting. If you look at the table for this data, you'll see the different fuel types that are being utilized here. What type of facility is, you can see a lot of the different information for this. But if we go into the configure screen, oh, I think it's, here we go. So you'll see the different types of electric vehicle networks, the electric vehicles that can be serviced, natural gas, what types of hydrogen standards and propane nozzles and things like that. So it's very comprehensive. And then another piece of hardening and understanding the risk and hardening infrastructure is looking at, of course, the bridge data. The bridge data across the US is unfortunately a little bit shocking. So the red dots are all of the bridges that are in poor condition, so failed their last inspection, at least their last inspection. The fair bridges are potentially on their way to becoming poor bridges in the future. The good bridges are good. So that's a lot of green that you see here. So that's excellent. We have different visualizations for this. So you can look at which ones are principal arterial bridges or non-principal arterial. All of the bridges, for example, that are structurally deficient in poor condition. So you can just see those on a specific map. We also have bridge data by classification. So here you can see, for example, that of all of the principal arterial bridges that are part of an interstate, there are 72, and one of them is in poor condition. You can also see that of the other principal arterial bridges, there are 48, and 2 of those are in poor condition, right? So that's really helpful to be able to see it that way. And then you can also look at it by average daily traffic. So here are all of the bridges that have 10,000 to 100,000 vehicles per day. And of those, one of them is in poor condition, and there are 111 in fair condition. So that's, those bridges are also at risk. In the back end of this data, if we look at the table data, we can see, well, first of all, you can look at the year bridges were built. You can see the different features that they're crossing. Are they crossing a ramp or a waterway, et cetera? What's the average daily traffic going over each bridge? You can filter these by which ones are in poor condition versus good and fair. So that's helpful. And in the back end, you can actually look at, is it the superstructure or the substructure or the culvert that is at risk? Is it scour critical? What % of the traffic going over the bridge is actually truck traffic, right? So if you can't get your trucks over the bridge and you've got a heavy manufacturing plant or a warehouse or something like that, that can be really dangerous and can disrupt your economic activity. So the bridges, tunnels, dams, similar kinds of data, looking at the ones that are in good condition versus not. And let's see if we can zoom out again here to see if there are other dams. There we go. So which ones are in unsatisfactory condition, poor condition, fair condition, satisfactory, and then either not rated or not available or unreported. And, there are a lot of private dams across the US, which was new information to me. But I found it very interesting. You can also look at dams by hazard potential and purpose and how much water they're storing in them. So that is really valuable I will point out actually the hazard potential dams, the fact that you can see all of the ones that have high hazard potential and then look, zoom into that area and be able to look more closely at what industries might be in that area and or maybe population density, right? That is causing that dam to be rated high hazard potential. It's not because the dam is in bad condition in this case. The hazard potential is measuring whether it would be a catastrophe if the dam were to break. So there's high hazard, significant hazard, and low hazard, and then of course undetermined. So if you look at this dam data again in a table, you can see a lot of interesting information in there. What is the hazard potential? And again, you can rank by, the high hazard potential and see if it is a dam for flood reduction or recreation. There's all different tailings. So there's all different kinds of dams, and you'll see there's a lot of pages of dam data here. You can look at the condition assessment. So high hazard potential and poor condition is one that you're going to want to look at more closely, right? Or unsatisfactory condition. So those are some of the different measures. And again, if you go into that backend configure screen, you can see there's a lot more data in here. When was the last inspection? Who owns the dam? What is the dam height or volume? When was it completed? What's the spillway type, right? So there's a lot of information that you can see in that back end and then bring to the front if you check those boxes. I'm talking a lot here and there's a lot to cover, but I do want you to feel free to put questions in, and I know we're getting close on time. So I'm going to just show you a couple of the other things that are really valuable for you to know that are available in StateBook. And again, a lot of this data is available from the federal government, but it's not always as easily accessible or visualized and that kind of thing. So we do have the weather station data, so you can look at temperature data, average temperatures, minimum probabilities for heating and cooling degree days, precipitation, snowfall, and freeze dates, right? And then we also have pollution data, which is important to be able to see. Oops, sorry, hit the wrong button, user error. It was the same data though. So to be able to see there we go. To be able to see the pollution data for what is the fine particulate matter in the air and what are the air quality days. This was very important during wildfires and so forth. And then what are the toxic releases from heavy manufacturing and so forth. I want to just point out one of the interesting things. We've been doing quite a bit of work in Los Angeles with the Institute for Sustainable Development and working with the Los Angeles EDC and on small business recovery in particular. And here you can see the outline of the wildfire that impacted the Topanga area and the Palisades. This is the Palisades fire. So you can look at, the total population of that area and all the rest of our data and be able to see, where people were impacted. And if you, again, if you zoom into the street level, you can start to get to, you know, where those homes may have been that were impacted and so forth. And that gives you like that baseline data to be able to take a screenshot of this and then overlay something like a near map, which is satellite data. And we're working on a partnership with them to be able to bring their satellite data right into StateBook so that you can show right inside of our platform and our APIs where the real-time impacts are. Where was the brush, there's, you know, destroyed, where were homes destroyed, and be able to show this on a satellite real-time map, what has happened. The other piece that we already have brought in and are looking to expand is the mobility data. So in this case, this is from cell phone signals. So in this case, each of these columns is actually density of population. So you're looking at, in this case, how people are moving around the city of Fort Lauderdale, hour over hour, day over day. So you can see like everybody goes to work here. This is the north-south commute corridor, the east-west commute corridor. We can do origin and destination. So in the case like this, you could say, of the people that work in this area, 12% of them live over here and take this commute corridor to work every day. In the case of a natural disaster, you could say, we have this percent of the population has actually evacuated. Here's where they went. Here's how long they stayed away. Here's when they came back, or did they come back at all, or did they move to another state? And because we can layer the information from StateBook, the demographics and so forth, we could say the people who live in this area over here tend to have this occupation, education level, income, race, right? So we can attribute all kinds of demographic characteristics to those people, which can be very, very useful as well. And we can also even show where people came from to help with the disaster recovery effort. I do want to show you really quickly two things. One, to answer that earlier question about the SEDS. StateBook has created a digital SEDS platform. Sorry, I'm quickly breezing through the questions here. So StateBook has created a digital SEDS platform. You can see this is one that we did for the Piedmont Triad. So we basically take the SEDS report that you normally produce every 5 years and update every year for the EDA. And we take all of the narrative, right, and we embed it into a full website, into all of the different required areas of the SEDS. So the SWOT analysis, the action plan, goals and objectives. You'll see this one hasn't been updated yet since the EDA requirements just changed on equity, economic resilience. So we take all of the narrative and we put it into a full website. So it's no longer a PDF. It actually becomes an interactive resource that everybody in your region can use. And this is an example of how we bring it to life. What is typically in the SEDS, the map that you show of your region and where you sit in relation to the rest of the area, right, becomes a fully interactive resource with lots of data that anybody in your region can come and download right from here. And so it becomes a very data-driven resource. And we actually go through with you all of the narrative in your SEDS, and then we populate the SEDS with data that backs up what your assumptions are and brings it to life and justifies it. And we can add photos to make it more lively. And then, for example, where Piedmont here is talking about cluster strengths, we brought in the county business patterns data and updated it with all of the employment, establishments, payroll, et cetera. So that is just one way. Oh, I'll show you one more thing, which I think is really interesting when you're thinking about resilience in particular, and you're looking at your goals and objectives for the SEDS, because you can actually take each goal and each objective and embed it in here, as well as, of course, the tactics that you're going to deploy to achieve those objectives. And then you can talk about what are the impacts that you want to measure going forward, and we can bring in the data to do that. So, you know, we have, in this case, the QCW data on employment and wages to help benchmark all of the information about making the region more competitive in the marketplace, right? So we brought in that data, which they wanted to track and benchmark. And because you can look at the data over many, in this case, quarters and years, you can see that this is, it basically helps eliminate the research that you need to do, because you always have that last 5-year look back. Another part of the digital SEDS platform, it's optional, but you can embed the International Sustainable Resilience Center's Economic Resilience Scorecard in your digital SEDS. And that is a 50-question self-assessment. I mentioned at the beginning of this discussion that, you know, a large part of this is being able to have the communication structures and the different relationships in place to be able to have everything set so that if there is a disaster, you can respond quickly. So in the case of this economic resilience scorecard, you can respond as the regional EDD, or you can give access to your different counties, and then you can track how each county is doing on the scorecard and how the region as a whole is doing. So each of these questions, I'm not going to go through all 50, but just to give you a quick taste of what this includes, each of these questions builds on the other. So have you established an economic resilience committee or task force? And if you say yes, it brings you into, okay, you have established the task force, but do you have representatives from your local community or county, regional, or state, or EDA? And as you select each one of these and click next, you actually get to a whole framework that starts to help you improve your economic resilience right through the scorecard. So this is, you know, saying, yes, we have local community representatives. So it says, okay, do you have them from city government, planning, economic development, the mayor's office? Are your businesses represented? How about local NGOs or emergency services? And for each one that you answer yes to, you get points toward that score. And then you all also know that these are the things that you need to implement. These are the people in this case that you need to bring across the table to be able to improve your score. This says, have you drafted an economic resilience plan specifically for economic development? And it introduces this self-reporting concept. So how complete is that particular step? And then questions 3 through 50, and this is the last one that I'll show you. This one says, have you established a business emergency operations or recovery center? You could say, well, we haven't done that yet, but now you know the purpose of doing this, the potential partners you need to have at the table, the role that this particular emergency operations and recovery center will play in the region, the cost you can anticipate for standing it up, and where to go for funding, for grant funding, to help cover those costs. And then an example with a link of a community that has done this piece really well. So questions 3 through 50 have both the scorecard element and a framework to help you improve economic resilience across your region, which is so valuable. I know we only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to answer a couple of the questions that are in the chat. One is that the data is cool. Thank you for that. but is there data to this level for rural areas? I don't know if you can put in the chat which area you're from, Jeremy, but if you can, I can just show you. But yes, it is all available for rural areas. I will caveat that to just say that some of the data, like basically all of the data that is available for free, which is this, again, this report here, with all of these data points, is available for free. This data and any of the other census data, right, is going to be available down to the census tract and block group level, as well as for the whole US, the state, the metro area, the county, the city, congressional district, school district, and then census tract and block group. So we visualize all of the data regardless of where you're located for the entire US, down to all of the census data, down to the census tract and block group level. Other data, like let's just look at the occupations data, right? We have the census occupations data, so you can look at that on a map, or you'll see like all of these other different visualizations, pie charts and benchmarks and charts and graphs. But you can look at this for at a rural area for from the census, and you can see like here are the different areas where people are employed, and you can look at it over time, and you can drill down to the lower level codes. But in this case, you'll notice these codes from the census, even though they're available at a very granular geography, they're only available for very high level codes, versus the OES data. If we look at that, this is the occupations data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And again, you can look at it across years, you can see trends, you can drill down into lowest level codes like, you know, management analysts, accountants, and auditors, but you'll see it's only available for the metro area. But we always have the data available for any area, no matter how rural, at the lowest level geography that the data is available. So I hope that answers your question. And the other question in the chat was, what of this data on StateBook is available for free? And that answer is this overview report here. You can look at any of this data, whether it's on statebook.com, you can look at it for free for any region. And you can also embed this entire widget in your website for your own region, or any of your counties or cities, etc., for free in just 10 lines of code. It drops right in, and we're giving that to you for free. So that is that. The question was, what is the cost to do a digital SEDS? The digital SEDS start at $20,000 a year, and then they go up depending on population. So, you know, whatever your total county population is for all of the counties in your region, we just total that up, and then we calculate the price. It's also the economic resilience scorecard is a $10,000 a year add-on, or you can just license the scorecard on its own. So each of those are its own, you know, solution. But yeah, the digital SEDS starts at $20,000 per year. And that includes all of our data and digitizing the SEDS and all of the updates to the data throughout the year, which is essentially every 2 weeks, we're updating at least one of our data sets. As part of an EDD, can we access and use the data for free? Is there a specific user account or login we need to obtain it? When I visited your website, it prompted me to the login screen. Yes. So when you come to statebook.com, and I'll actually just log out to be able to show you this. When you come, sorry, the Zoom tools are in my way, but when you come to statebook.com in a logged out view, this is, well, you'll actually see this. So this is our homepage, and you'll see sign in here. If you click that, it'll bring you to a sign in or register page. So if you don't have an account, you can register for a free account. And then once you register and sign in, then you'll be able to, whoop, it forgot who I was. Hold on. You'll be able to actually go in and see all of that data for free. And I will just go to, actually, I'll go to where I am from originally. Oh, I guess I should have gone to Ulster County. So Ulster County, New York is where I am from, and it is very rural. So it makes it easy for me to show you one area with rural data just super quickly. So this is the city of Kingston, New York, Woodstock, where the famous concert wasn't. And then this is looking at the Catskill Mountains, and you can get down to the block groups. You'll see they're much larger here than they are over here in a city, but the data all still exists for that region, and you can still look at it with all this is the full report that is available for free when you log into StateBook. One more question, and then we probably need to wrap up, I guess, Brett. Huh?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. It looks like a question about any sort of Esri, yeah.
Yep. So you don't actually need to use Esri in order to embed our reports. If you are an Esri user, we can license you our raw data, and you can actually build it into Esri. But we also, our mapping is separate from Esri, and honestly, just a lot easier to use. So there is that.
Wonderful. Well, Kalandra, thank you so much. This has been a really great hour together. Big thank you for the presentation, and of course, making some of this data free for folks. I know compiling this isn't easy or cheap, so thanks for putting that out there into the world for us, and also kind of demonstrating some of the real power of the subscription model and what those resources are. I think a big takeaway that I got from this presentation is really the kind of the multifaceted, kind of multidisciplinary approach that we need to take to resilience and preparedness and recovery. And just thinking, like you mentioned, about bridges and dams and power sources, it's just such a big picture conversation and can certainly feel overwhelming. So this opportunity to be able to kind of map this data and really visualize it in a way I think is really, really powerful. So thank you for that. And also thank you, for continuing to update and make these adjustments. I know some of these data sets are fairly new that have been incorporated into StateBook, and I know you and your team are always keeping an eye out on kind of what's next and what's available to be able to continue this conversation. I say this to a lot of folks, we are in a golden age for the SEDS, for the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, and a lot of that has to do with opportunities to really get creative with our kind of design and how we kind of demonstrate and platform the SEDS and others, and the digital SEDS, whether in this form or others, using other platforms, taking it online, being able to interact, explore the data is really, really a big part of that for those that are kind of interested and willing. So I think we'll leave it at that. Again, we've recorded this session. We're going to share the slides. Hopefully this will all come out to you tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. We've got those webinars coming up next week with David Dodd, which I think will be a really great kind of companion to this session. It just kind of worked out this way with Kalandra speaking this week and David next week. I think it's a wonderful kind of mini course here and some of these issues and themes around resilience. So stay tuned for those next week. There'll be a quick 5-question survey that'll pop up when you log out. Please take a moment to fill that out. It helps us with our programming and most importantly, to kind of know what all of you are interested in and learning, and to be able to be responsive to your needs and interests around resilience and recovery planning, but anything kind of related to your work at the Economic Development District, which is so multidisciplinary and wide-ranging. So we're here for you. I'm sure Kalandra is willing to kind of take any kind of email questions that you might send her way afterwards. We'll make sure you have have her contact as well. And with that, again, thanks for taking the time. I know there's a lot going on for a lot of folks, but for spending this hour with us, taking a closer look at these resources, and hope you can kind of take a closer look on your own yourself to support your work. So Calandra, thank you again for that. And thank you for all joining us today. And with that, we'll log off and get back to another day. So thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.